I have put all the past predicted papers. Unless you're talking about paper 2 and 3, which I haven't uploaded yet. Give everyone a couple more minutes to show up and we'll get started. But I hope your revision's going okay. Hope the exam today for biology was alright. And obviously good luck on literature tomorrow, if you're doing it. The first question is about mixed numbers and fractions. I struggle with identical square questions. I either tell you to find the coordinate of C. Oh, is in the one where they have like a square on a coordinate axis and you have to work out the coordinates. What you're supposed to use there is the fact that the length of each side of a square is the same, so the difference in the coordinates between each side should also be the same. Hello, Jarrett. And yeah, there's 3 predicted papers for each paper for each year, if that makes sense. Give everyone a little more time to show up. I imagine some people are studying for English for tomorrow. Hello, Asia, how are you? Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this. So this is, again, my prediction. So I've already put up predicted paper 1A. So as I mentioned, I put up 3 papers for each kind of paper. So paper A, B, and C, just to make sure I hit all of the bases. Hello, Elizabeth, how are you? This is paper 1B because I haven't had a chance to actually record it and put it up yet with everything that's going on. So I thought we'd do it on the live lesson instead to make it done. Will I be streaming the day before maths paper 1? It kind of depends on if that's something people will want. So for this, it's just a mixed numbers question, so it shouldn't be too difficult. The first thing you need to do is change from mixed numbers into improper fractions. So to do that, you times the whole number by the number on the bottom. 3 times 7 is 21. And then add the 2 will give you 23 over 7. Do the same thing with this one. 1 times 4 is 4. Add the 1 gives you 5 over 4. Then you just need to make their denominators the same. So lowest common multiple between 7 and 4, just times them by each other. In terms of starting with the last question, depends. Who else wants me to start with the last question? And I can do that. But that'd be 92 over 28 minus 35 over 28. So if anyone else wants me to kind of start with the last question, just let me know. And we'll see. We'll get some democracy going. That is a splendid name, by the way. I assume it's not God-given. Who else? Alma as well. So that's 3. Okay. Let's start with the last question then. The last question, I believe, for paper 1 is, again, there's 3 papers, so one of the options is obviously going to be a vectors question. Vectors questions tend to show up in paper 1, so it's a good bet that they're going to put it in this year. It tells me that OAB is a triangle, O to A is A, O to B is B, shockingly, and we need to find A to B. So this is hopefully a fairly easy question. To go from A to B, just remember with vectors, you have to go along vectors that you know. I can't go straight from A to B because I don't know what this vector is, okay? This is a point P, by the way, okay? So we need to go from A to O, which is going to be minus A, and then from O to B, which is plus B. if you're wondering why I've done minus and plus, it's because if I'm going this way, if I'm going against the vector, I have to make it negative. Only plebs need to revise lit. I mean, I hope you're right. I guess it depends on what plays you're doing and everything. Yeah. Couldn't care less about literature. Well, that's nice. Okay. So, for the part B, it's just find what OP is. Is this similar to the IGCSE? So with IGCSEs, they are extremely similar. However, IGCSE has a couple of extra topics, things like differentiation. So it's not 100% relevant. Okay. So if we want to go from O to P, right, we need to go, I mean, there's two different ways we can go. We can either go from O to B and then B to P, or we can go from O to A and A to P. Both ways will give you the exact same answer, okay? So we're going to go from O to A, so OP is equal to O to A plus A to P. Okay. Now O to A, that's nice and easy. That's just A, right? Now what about A to P? Well, this is where it gets a bit more complicated. We don't know A to P. However, it tells me that P is the point on AB, such that AP to PB is equal to 3 to 1. So in other words, AP is 3 parts and PB is 1 part of the entire line. Okay? So that means AP is 3 over 4 of the total line. So in other words, it's 3/4 AB, where AB is just what we worked out in the previous part. Okay? Hope that makes a bit of sense. Then all we need to do is expand and simplify. So we have A plus, well actually it's minus 3 over 4 A plus 3/4 of B. Now A is just going to be 1, so 1 minus 3/4 is going to give me a quarter A plus 3/4 B. Okay. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. I know vectors is a very annoying topic, but I feel like recently we've done a lot of grade 9 vector questions which require like 10 different steps and they're like 5-6 marks in total. Whereas this one is a 3 marker, it's not as bad, okay? So I need to bring it back down to reality. You're probably not going to get one of those aiming for grade 9 questions, but if you are aiming for a grade 9, you can maybe expect one of those questions to come up, right? So hopefully that's all alright. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me. On the grid below, you need to sketch the graph of y equals 2x squared plus 9x plus 4. So if you remember, a sketch does not require plotting. Okay, so no table. Okay. Do you have any tips for problem solving questions? So a few things to keep in mind is one, every piece of information is useful that they give you. Okay, and I don't mean that in like a English way. I mean literally you have to use every single piece of information. Okay, they give you enough information to answer the question and nothing else. So highlight all of the information and then write out the information as an equation if you can. If it says the area of the trapezium is 44 centimeters squared, write down the area of the trapezium equation and equal it to 44. Things like that. Do they ever do repeated questions? As in, can the same topic come up more than once? Absolutely. A certain number of marks has to be each topic each year. So Edexcel and AQA, Ella, are actually extremely similar. They test the exact same things. So this would be somewhat similar. This will be similar. However, if you want, you can go on the Discord and download the AQA predicted papers and do those instead. Okay. So, with a sketch, what do you need? There are 3 things. You need the x-intercepts. They're looking for the y-intercepts. And the last thing is they're looking for the shape. Those are the 3 things they're looking for, okay? So, 3 marks, 3 things. Big shock, right? So, if I get the ruler out. Okay, never mind. Fair enough, the ruler doesn't want to come out. I'm going to just draw it by eye then. We're going to draw our axes. It's terrible. We're going to draw our axes like this, okay? So, let's start with the x-intercept. How do you find the x-intercept? Well, the x-intercept is when y equals 0. So all you do is you do 2x squared plus 9x plus 4 equals 0. And then you're trying to solve that, okay? So to solve that, fairly simple. You're looking for two numbers that times to 8 in this case and add to 9. Remember, it's 8 because you're doing 2 times 4. So those two numbers are going to definitely be 8 and 1. So then all you're doing is 2x squared plus 8x plus x plus 4, 0. Again, if you have your own way of doing kind of factorization, that's totally fine. This is just the way that we do it at our school. Plus 1. So that gives me 2x plus 1 equals x plus 4. So x is either equal to minus a half or it's equal to minus 4. So we can now plot those 2 points or sketch them. So we're going to say that minus a half is here. I'm going to say that 4 is somewhere over here. Okay, there you go. That's the first mark done. Where's the y-intercept? That is when x equals 0. So if I sub in x equals 0 into this equation, we get y is equal to 2, 0 squared plus 9, 0 plus 4. So 0 squared is 0, times 2 is 0, plus 9 times 0, that's also 0, plus 4. So in other words, the y-intercept is 4. So it's crossing the y-axis at 4. Like that. Okay? So that is done over there. Oh, actually, I just realised. Put the minus on the wrong side. Okay. So, if you look at those 3 points, we need the general shape. So the question is it going to be a happy face or a sad face? Is it going to be a U or an N? Well, if you look, I can't actually get an N through all 3 of these points. So it has to be a U. That doesn't make sense. Then, if it's positive, it's a happy face. Okay. So either it's positive, in which case it's a happy face, or if it's a negative x squared, you do a sad face. Still get marks for the factorization if you did it with a calculator, no working out. Yes, so in this case, since there's only 3 marks, you'll get the marks just for getting the correct answer here. Okay. Okay. Cool. With the next question, we have a histogram. So keep in mind again, histograms don't just have to appear in paper 3, they can appear in paper 1. Okay, only question I found hard on maths was the last one, paper 1 last year. Oh, that's good, Bobby. That's good. So we have frequency density, hours, very stereotypical for a histogram. 50 students spend 1 hour less studying per week. Work out an estimate for the number of students who spend 3.5 hours or more studying. So they gave us that this bar here is equal to 50 students, right? Now, frequency density is the frequency divided by the class width. So in other words, this frequency here is also 50, which means it's actually going up in 50 over 3. So 50 over 3, 100 over 3, 150 over 3, which is 50, okay? So we can actually fill in the rest of this. 150 over 3, then it would be 200 over 3, 250 over 3, 100, and then it would be, so that's 300 over 3, then it's 350 over 3, 400 over 3. Okay. And it's asking us for 3.5 hours or more, so that is everything inside this bar. So the class width is from 3.5 to 5. So the class width is 1.5. And the height is 50 over 3. So all we need to do is do 50 over 3 times 1.5. But to make your life a bit easier, What is 1.5 as a fraction? It's 3 over 2. So this is times 3 over 2, which means you can cancel the 3's from cost cancelling, and then you just have 50 over 2, which is 25. Then it says, explain why your answer to part I is only an estimate. And the reason is quite simple. The reason is because we've assumed that there's a uniform distribution inside each of these bars, i.e. an equal number of people did from 2 to 2.5 as 2 to 0.5 to 3. Okay? So all we have to do is say that there is a uniform distribution in the classes. So hopefully that makes sense. Hey Mar, how are you? Yeah, not too bad. Busy with all the exams and stuff, but it's not too bad. The biology one or the sociology one? Actually, I don't know if you do sociology, to be honest. I heard the biology exam was crazy because they asked you about stuff that you weren't supposed to be asked on in paper 1. Things like mitosis, meiosis, like asexual reproduction and things like that. You're welcome, Lorelei. Thank you for appreciating it. Solve the simultaneous equations. We have 7x plus 4y equals 48. 3x plus 10y equals 62. So solving simultaneous equations, there's two methods. One of them is for substitution, which is where you rearrange for x or y and sub it into the other one. You only have to use that one if it's quadratic. So in this case, it's not quadratic, we don't need to worry. Okay? And for the other method, it's elimination. So you make the number in front of one of the letters the same, and then subtract. So what would be the easiest one here? These numbers are pretty annoying, so even though I'm the one that made the question. But I think if we make the y's the same, so if we times the first one by 5 and the second one by 2, that might be the best. So 7 times 5, 35x. Oh, Zay, I didn't see your question, sorry. So do you think paper 1 would be comparatively easy to last year? They said they want fewer people getting grade 9s, so they should make it a bit harder, in theory. But honestly, I'm not sure. They said they want to make it harder, but who knows, right? And that would be 145? No, 245. So yeah. No, it wouldn't. What am I talking about? It'd be 240. Good lord. Alright. So yeah, to times by 5, you can times by 10, which is 480, and then half it, which would be 240. Why did they say that? Because a lot of people got grade 9s, not last year, the year before, because they did the teacher assessed grades, where everyone just got given really good grades. Which, it's not exactly your fault, I understand that, but that's what they want to do. All of you should be aiming for grade 9, of course. This is the Edexcel paper 1. So yeah, subtract, you get 29x equals 240 minus 124 would be 116. Okay? Can I go over some algebraic probability? I mean, once we get through this. So yeah, if you divide both sides by 29, you get 4. So x is equal to 4. Sub it into whatever equation you want. It might be easiest to do the very first equation. So you get 7 times 4 plus 4y equals 48. 7 times 4 is 28 plus 4y equals 48. So then 4y, subtract 28 from both sides, it gives us 20, which means that y is equal to 5. Are we saying that the boundaries are going back to what they used to be before COVID? That's the idea, Robbie. But the thing is, the way they calculate boundaries is they do it after they've marked everyone's paper. And they base it on how well you guys did. Okay, so put it this way. There won't be a year where no one gets grade 7, 8 and 9. Even if everyone does it terribly. Okay, so John and Sam each drew a triangle, each with one side of 10 centimeters, an angle of 45 and an angle of 85. And Sam says that both angles must be congruent. So here you're probably thinking of angle side angle, in which case they would be congruent. But you should keep in mind that the only way they're congruent is if the two angles are made up of this side. Okay? So it could simply be that they have, instead of that kind of setup, the actual angles that are the same are completely unrelated to the sides. Okay? So we have to do is say that the two similar angles may not have a shared side. ASA is a congruency relationship, which means angle side angle. So basically, if you have two angles and the side joining them that are the same in both triangles, then those two triangles are congruent to one another. They're identical to one another. Misa, you can watch this later on if you want. Yeah, it's on the channel. You can go on the live streams and watch all of them. SAS is side angle side. So if you have two sides and the angle between them, then the two triangles are congruent. So Quan, this is my own predicted paper for paper 1. So yes, it's predicted for 2023. Can you explain it again? Yeah, sure, Mar. So basically, John and Sam each drew a triangle with one side of 10 centimeters, one angle of 45, and another angle of 85. And he said that both triangles must be congruent. Now, the problem with what they're saying is they're using the ASA kind of congruency, but with ASA, the two angles must have a shared side. Okay? Which they don't in this case, but they might not do. It's not for GCSE explicitly. It's for Edexcel. So can you see, in this case, the angles are made up of the same side. But in this case, the two angles are not made up of the same side, so they're not congruent. Right? Whereas in this case, the angles have a shared side. So, L1, so the line L1 has equation y equals 4x minus 12. L2 is perpendicular to L1 and passes through the point 8, 8. Find the equation of the line L2. So, how do you know exactly, Nithika? So what I'm saying is they when we say must, we mean in all cases, right? In all cases. But that's not necessarily true, right? Because it might not be that case. So yeah, it might be the shared side, or it might not be. We don't know, and we can't tell. So, perpendicular. So what this means is that the gradient of L2 is the negative reciprocal of the gradient of L1. So if I say the gradient of L1 is equal to 4, because remember y equals mx plus c, right? So the number in front of x is always the gradient. Then the gradient of the line L2 is just 1 over 4, and then you change the sign. So if it's minus, then you make it plus. If it's plus, you make it minus. So the equation for L2 is minus a quarter x plus c. Am I going to go live on the Thursday before the exam? So with this upcoming exam, I'm not 100% sure, because basically the school want me to run revision sessions, right? And it's going to run kind of late. So I don't know if I'm going to be free or not. I've been trying to get out of it and trying to figure out an alternative. But yeah. I did offer for them to just join the live stream, but the school said you can't advertise your stuff in school, so... Anyways, and then to work out what the plus c is, all you need to do is substitute that equation. Okay. So x equals 8, y equals 8. So you get 8 is equal to minus a quarter 8 plus c. So that gives 8 equals... A quarter of 8 is 2, then make it negative, so it's minus 2 plus c, which means c is equal to 10. So in other words, we have y is equal to minus a quarter x plus 10. Yeah. Hopefully not too bad. And then it says find the point of intersection. So if you students don't know what intersection means, well, you have these two lines, right? The intersection is where they cross. Okay? So, in terms of where they cross, how do we work that out? Well, all you need to do is know that at that point where they cross, they're going to have the exact same coordinates, right? Logically. Which means the x in this equation is the same as the x in this equation. And the y in this equation is the same as the y in this equation. So it's just simultaneous equations. So we have y is equal to 4x minus 12. And you have y is equal to minus a quarter x plus 10. So since the y's are the same, you can just subtract them if you want. So that gives you 0 equals 4 minus a quarter. So 4 add a quarter is going to be, so 4 over 1 add a quarter. So that would be 16 over 4 add a quarter. So it would be 17 over 4x plus 10. Yeah. Minus 10 from both sides, we get minus 10 is equal to 17x over 4. Times both sides by 4, we get minus 40 equals 17x. And therefore x is equal to minus 40 over 17. To find the actual y coordinate, all we have to do then is substitute it into one of the two equations. In my opinion, the easier one is the original. So y is equal to 4 minus 40 over 17 minus 12. Y is equal to minus 160 over 17. So I saw the question earlier on that said, what is the paper based on? So, and dropping the link. So the link, it's in the Discord, because I had to upload the files. But if you don't have access to Discord or whatever, you can email me at this email address and I'll email it to you. Okay, because it's literally just going to be a zip file. As for what it's based on, I went through all of the previous papers and I noted down the topic that came up in each question, and then using using Google Sheets, so Excel, and some fancy maths, I worked out the probability, so the likelihood of each topic coming up. And then that's why I made 3 different papers on it. This is normal GCSE. So minus 12, so that'd be minus 12 over 17, and you just work that out. I'm pretty sure you guys are all fine with working that out anyway, right? If I put a gun to your head, you could probably do it. Yeah. So minus 364 over 17. So those are your two, well, your one coordinate. Should you watch it if you're doing AQA? So Edexcel and AQA test the exact same stuff and the papers are very similar. In fact, a lot of students struggle with telling the difference between AQA and Edexcel. But I do have AQA predicted papers that you can do instead of watching the video if you want. That's totally fine. Okay. I definitely can do A-level physics questions. I teach A-level maths and A-level physics. And I have some A-level physics videos on the channel too. My degree is in physics. Anyways. So, these graphs show 4 functions, you get these 4 graphs, and you have to just match it to the actual function itself. So my advice for this one is that you would simply go through process of elimination. Process of elimination is what I'm trying to say. So for example, if I look at these bottom 2, I'm hoping you guys recognize. This one is simply y equals x. So now we've increased our odds, right? What about this one? Well, that's the x squared graph. Now we have a 50-50 chance of guessing which one's right. Now this one I think would be quite tricky to get. What about this one? Well, that's going to be sine or cos, right? Well, if I look here, sine's the only option, so it must be sine. Therefore, B must be the last one. Okay. Process of elimination. About to be a long-time subscriber. Thank you, I appreciate it. That'd be fun. I do like A-level physics. I love teaching it personally. But the thing is, when I did the A-level physics videos, barely anyone watched them, so it's not exactly in high demand, I think. Okay. Next question. This here is a rationalizing the denominator question. Not really much more than that. So the first thing I would do before doing the actual rationalizing the denominator, I'll just expand the top. A-level physics too easy for you or too hard? Oh, it's too hard and this question's easy, I'm guessing? Okay. 7 times 7 is 49. Then you have minus 7 root 5, but then you'd have a plus 7 root 5. But I'm going to write it out fully just so you guys are aware. Then you have minus root 5 times plus root 5. That will give you minus root 25. Okay. These things cancel. And that's obviously all over root 44. So root 25 is 5. So 49 minus 5 is 44. Evie, I feel like it's been a long time since I've seen you in the chat. It's too close, I know. I've turned into an academic weapon. Oh, wow. Okay. Someone's in their villain arc. Fair enough. It is close, but I do have faith. You guys are doing... I mean, look, if you guys are joining into a live stream, you're probably revising at least somewhat, right? But yeah. Anyways, to rationalize the denominator, all you need to do is times by the surd. How can you memorize all the quotes? The best way to do it is to keep writing out the essays. That way you're thinking of the quote in context of the theme that you're looking for. Blurt your quotes. I mean, I don't really know what that is, but yeah. Look. You should try in all of your exams, okay? You're set for maths, but lit is not the same. Yeah, lit's a bit fun. Again, if you're doing an in spectacles, that's an absolutely goated play. It's so nice to write about, in my opinion. But I feel bad for you guys doing like Romeo and Juliet. Oof. It's not set for maths at all. I mean, I'm sure you guys will play. Gotta have a Harmatia. For this one, changing recurring decimals into fractions is something that some people have asked me about, but I haven't really had a chance to do it. Here's what you do. Here's my top tip. Okay. And by the way, just don't watch me do it once. Go and do some practice on this. Okay. But that thing is reading the quotes, writing it down, and after. Oh, okay. Anyways, that's fair enough. Sounds like a decent method. All you do is you times by the number of recurring decimals. So what I mean by that is the first thing you do is you obviously have the 0.125. Okay. You times by the number 1 with the number of zeros equal to the number of recurring places. So what I mean by that is if there's 1 recurring decimal place, you times by 10. If there's 2 recurring decimal places, you times by 100. If there's 3, you times by 1,000. In this case, we have 3 recurring decimals, so we're going to times by 1,000. Okay? 1, 2, 3. So if I times that by 1,000, you get 125.125 again. And that's the whole point, right? Is you want to get the decimals as exactly the same. So now what you're going to do is do 1000x minus x, which equals 125.125 recurring minus 0.125 recurring. So as you can see, you're just left with 125. Have you updated your lexicon saying stuff like goated? My lingo. I mean, I like to stay with it as much as I can. Where can you find deadly ratio questions? 2010 Edexcel paper 1. The end of that paper was the very last question is a relatively tricky one. Other than that, I feel like there was one in that video I did recently. I can't remember. Yeah. So for that. Okay, so this is another kind of problem-solving type question. The rectangle below has an area of 32 centimeters squared. Calculate the value of x. So again, just in terms of exam technique, because at this point you should hopefully be doing A, as many past papers as possible for practice, and B, you should be learning exam technique, so you can get at least 1 mark. Okay, so some students would leave this blank and get 0. I'm going to show you how to get at least 1 mark in any question. Hey Samantha, how are you? So, it says the rectangle below has an area of 32 centimeters squared. Well, how do you work out the area of a rectangle? You multiply the two sides. Okay? You're very welcome, Evie. I will pray for you, of course. If you times those two together, so we get x plus 2, x plus 6, equals 32, that gives you 1 mark straight away. Just writing out the formula gives you a mark. It's pretty good, pretty handy, okay? Then all you need to do is expand. Well, now if you're thinking, what on earth do I do? Here's the hint. Expand and simplify. Okay? So, x squared plus 2x plus 6x, so plus 8x plus 12 equal 32, right? Now you have a quadratic and you want to find out what x is. So you're solving a quadratic. To solve a quadratic, you need to make it equal to 0. So move the 32 to the left-hand side. You get x squared plus 8x minus 20 equals 0. That's your second mark. Third mark is for solving this. So two numbers that times to minus 20 and add to plus 8. That is going to be 10 and minus, whoops, just the letter E, sure, and minus 2. So you have x plus 10, x minus 2 equals 0, and Qualms, you're absolutely right. Our two solutions are minus 10 and x equals 2, but it can't be two numbers, so it has to be the positive one because it's the length of a side. And it's a positive area too. I mean, you can't have negative areas, but yeah. My school's maths book's so broke they can't afford me to give me a new book for revision. Great. Have past predicted papers ever been right? Honestly, I have no idea. I haven't heard of one, but I'm hoping that this one is vaguely similar. This is higher tier. Hey Robert, how are you? Yeah, in truth, predicted papers haven't been right before, but this is genuinely my best guess at what it's going to be like. It's higher Edexcel, paper 1. If you go in the disc, I've already uploaded paper 1A, which is my first version of paper 1. This is my second version of paper 1. Biology made me want to die today. I heard a lot from my students that it was a terrible exam. Hello, Uzair. No worries, Israel. 1C when? I'm sweating to try and get that out as well, Hannah. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Bolt. Okay. Alright. Forgot about this one. A combined was most of the students I spoke to. Most of the students. Okay. So question 12. We have below are the heights of everyone at a leisure centre in centimetres. Calculate the interquartile range and median. Okay, so first of all, this is something that normally comes up in paper 3. So I think they're going to put it in paper 1 because some students don't revise this stuff until paper 3. Interquartile range is the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. Everyone does AQA at my school, Robert, so I have no idea. How do you download this paper? You can join the Discord, and it's in the graded papers chat, I think it's called. If not, then you can try and email me, and I'll try and email it back to you. So this is my email address. Histograms are a higher only topic. You're very welcome, Israel. So, to work out the median, nice and easy. You put your data in order, and you find the middle number, right? That's fairly easy. Just cross one off on each side. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7. And then we have two numbers, 165 and 166 for the median, right? Hey, hybrid. So what you need to do is find the middle of those two numbers. Well, the middle of 165 and 167 is 166 centimeters. Okay. For the quartiles, you can do a few different things. One of them is a bit more complicated than the other. So I'm going to show you the way that I personally prefer. This is higher tier. The lower quartile is this. You want to find, basically, the lower quartile is the first quarter of the values. Okay? So if we add up how many numbers we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We have 16 values. Okay? And if we divide by 4, that will give us a quarter of the values. So we're looking for the fourth value. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 154. So lower quartile is 154. Okay. Why is the median, it's not 16, 166. Why is it 166? Because when we crossed off one from each side, the two numbers in the middle are 165 and 166. So you need to find the middle of those two numbers, which is 166. Upper quartile, you're doing basically the same thing. However, you do 3 times 16 over 4. So don't forget, with the median, you're looking for the actual middle number, right? If there's two numbers in the middle, you have to add them together and divide by 2 or find the middle. So it is the 8th number, but that's not quite how we do it. In this case, 48 over 4, so that would just be 12th value. So again, that's the first 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 176. Yes. You could do 4 numbers from the bottom as well, Nithika, that's fine. So again, the interquartile range, which I'm going to call the IQR, is the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. Okay, so that is going to be 22 centimeters. And so yeah, with the rest of this paper, it's going to be getting easier because we've done, we started from the end, so we've done the hard kind of stuff. But it'll be 4 numbers, Nithika. Yeah. So how did I get the lower quartile? Okay, the lower quartile is the first quarter of the values, right? So you take the number of values you have, which is 16, right? Add these all up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There's 16 numbers here. Divide that by 4, that gives you the number 4, right? This means you're looking for the 4th value. So you start from 1, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I started from the end of the paper, so you can go back to see the last few questions which were harder, like the vector questions and things like that. Again, I want to go through the whole paper because it's going to act like a mark scheme. But yeah. So yeah, if you go back in the video, you can watch it. It's all on there. So a cumulative frequency table as well. So vectors will definitely come up, and I'm 90% sure it's going to be a geometry one. So just like, where they give you a triangle and it's like a few different vectors. Yeah, I'll put the answers on Discord. Yeah. So vectors has to come up every year anyway. But it depends on how hard it is, right? Cumulative frequency, all you need to do is add it as you go along. So you start at 3, add the next number 12, so that's 15. Add the next one, that's 30. Add the next one, that is 55. Add the next one, that is 65. Add the next one, that is 70. Okay, that should hopefully be a free 1 mark that we get, I'm hoping. However, plotting the grid is where a lot of students go wrong. Okay? On a cumulative frequency graph, it is different to a frequency graph. Okay. When comparing the two box plots, what are the 2 points to get? Okay, the first thing is you measure spread. That's the interquartile range. So you work out the interquartile range, see which one's bigger. And the second one is you work out the middle number, which is going to be the median. So say which one's bigger of the median, say which one's bigger the interquartile range. You can't do the mean because you don't know all the different values. Okay, so to plot cumulative frequency, you plot the biggest number in the class and the cumulative frequency. So 60 and 3 for this case. So 60, and what does this go up in? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it goes in 5 squares, so it goes up in 4s. All right, so 60 and 4, about here. Okay, 70 and 15. 70, 15, so 4, 8, 12. The next one will be 16, so it's just right there. 80 and 30. 24, 28. Well, look, in terms of the whole like failing thing, exactly as the man with the great names has said, you have more time and you have 3 papers to do well. Not just that, but honestly, exams don't mean that they don't actually define who you are as a person. You can retake them, you can redo them, and it's all going to be fine. Yeah, you have until Friday for paper 1, but you have paper 2 and 3 as well, which is where most of your grade comes from, right? Because 2 papers, 1 paper, 2 is worth more, right? 90 and 55, so 40, 44, 48, 52, 56. On this graph, you need the midpoint for the upper quartile and lower quartile. On this graph, we're doing cumulative frequency, so we don't need to do any of that. And lastly, 110 is 70. So 60, 64, 68. And the last thing, hello Leo, how are you? The last thing you need to do is connect the dots with a straight line. Okay? Again, you'd use a ruler for this. For some reason, the ruler isn't working on OneNote at the moment, so that's fun. I'm a maths teacher day to day and tutor. Hey Smokey, what do you think the hardest exam board is? If the GCSE one counts, then it's going to be CIE, Cambridge International. Other than that, I think Educas is the hardest one. If you're just talking about plain GCSEs, Educas, which is the Welsh exam board. Would we be allowed to send a strong message to the examiner? Honestly, I think that that's best if you don't. For long calculator, we get the equations right. You get most of them, yeah. No, you don't need to connect to the origin. Okay, for this one, for this part, James says 50% of the people weigh 75 kilograms or more. Is James correct? You must show how you got your answer. Well, there's 70 people in total. Half of that would be 35, right? So if we find 35 on our axes, we have 24, 28, 32. So we're looking at just down here. And then all we're going to do is read off the value on the axes. Right? And if you look, half of the people weigh under, what is that, 82 kilograms. So half the people weigh 82 kilograms or less, which means he is actually right to an extent. I mean, he's wrong to an extent. The boundary is 82 kilograms, right? So yeah. So he is correct because half of the people weigh more than 82 kilograms. Yes, listen to Gail, you're going to do fine. 100% fine. And it should be everyone has literature. I'm doing higher, Mo. Higher. Okay. Good. Okay. So a PE teacher decides whether the class will play football or basketball in the lesson. There's an equal chance that the PE teacher will choose football or basketball in their first lesson. Then the probability of the other sport being chosen in the following lesson is 2/3. And there are 3 lessons in a term. Okay? So you can use a tree diagram, but it's going to be a really big tree diagram. Okay? What is the probability that the football is chosen for the first 2 lessons? Well, what's the probability it's chosen for the first lesson? Well, it says there's an equal chance between football and basketball, so it's 1/2. And it says the probability of the other sport being chosen is 2/3 in the next lesson. So the same sport will be 1/3. So getting football again is 1/3. So 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. Okay. So, what is the probability that basketball is chosen twice in a term? So this is where things get a bit spicier. This, by the way, is conditional probability. So, twice in a term. Well, there's a few different ways we can get this, right? We can either have basketball, basketball, football, basketball, football, basketball, or you can have football, basketball, basketball. Okay? So yeah, you can, if you want, use a probability tree. But the tree is going to be really big because it's 3 kind of lessons in a term. Okay? So, probability of picking basketball first is 1/2 because there's an equal chance of getting basketball. Then getting the same lesson again is 1 in 3. Then getting the opposite lesson is 2/3. Okay? 1 times 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Times 3 is 18. Again, the probability of getting basketball is going to be 1/2. Then the probability of getting the other sport, football, is 2/3 because that's what it tells me in the question. And the probability of getting the other sport again is 2/3. So basically, every time the sport changes, it's 2/3. Every time it stays the same, it's 1/3. Okay? So 1 times 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 times 3 is 18 once again. Then football, again, is going to be 1/2. Then getting basketball is going to be 2/3. And then getting the same sport is 1/3. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever works for you. 1 times 2 times 1 is 2/18. And then all you need to do is, because there's 3 different ways of doing it, you need to add up all of these probabilities. So 2 plus 4 plus 2 gives me 8/18. Or if you want, you can put it as 4/9. Okay? Hopefully not too bad. Here, just some indices stuff. Hopefully isn't too bad. So they normally break it down into multiple parts and they kind of try and increase the difficulty. So 81 to the power of 1/2 is going to be square root 81, which is just 9. Exactly, Leo. Well done. 100 to the power of 0, well, anything to the power of 0 is always equal to 1. Okay? Now with this one, this is where things get a bit more spicy. The first thing I do is I get rid of the negative sign. To do that, you make it 1 over 27 to the 2/3. And then what does this fraction actually mean? Well, the bottom is what you're rooting. So in this case, cube root, but if it was a 2, it would be square root. If it's a 4, it would be the 4th root. And the top one is what you're doing it to the power of. So first, I always cube root to make the number smaller, which is 3. And then leave the squared, so it becomes 1 over 9. You're very welcome. Thank you for saying thank you. Yeah, I can see it kind of looks like degrees, I guess. Kinda. Hey Lolo, how are you? Good. You do get a formula sheet indeed. But I'm pretty sure some of the geometry formulas aren't going to be on there, like the surface area of a cone or something ridiculous like that. Okay. 1 out of 9, exactly. Now, this is pretty much guaranteed to come up, by the way, 100%, because you should know these values. Tan 30, again, I have gone through a way of remembering all of these, but use whichever method you prefer, should be root 3 over 3. Teacher isn't doing them. So the order does not matter. You're completely correct. I just prefer getting rid of the minus first, but up to you. This is paper 1, sleepyhead. The next one, again some trig. We have opposite. So again, label the sides opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So we're going to be using sine, and we get sine 30 equals opposite 1 over x. So times the other side. Well, in fact, what might be easier is sine 30, work out what that is. So if you remember what sine 30 is, it's a half. So we get half equals 1 over x, which means x must equal 2, right? But in case you're not too sure, times both sides by x, you get a half x equals 1. Times both sides by 2, you get x equal to 2. Yeah. Maths paper 1 is always going to be on Friday, yes. For every human being on the planet doing GCSEs. This is another problem solving 4 marker. So we have 2 quadrilaterals, A, B, C, D. So this is obviously a trapezium. Well, I mean, you don't actually know it's a trapezium, but it's 4 sides. And you get this other shape here. And it tells you the perimeter of A is 39, the perimeter of B is 44, BC equals FG, AB is equal to CD, which equals GH, and AD is equal to 2 times GH. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give these letters to write it out. Okay? So, BC equals FG, so I'm going to call that X and X. Then AB, CD, and GH, so AB, CD, and GH all Y. And then AD is equal to 2GH, so in other words it's 2Y. Now, if you remember, this is actually a parallelogram, so the opposite sides are always going to be the same. Now it should be relatively okay. So, perimeter of A is 39, so what we get is we get x plus y plus 2y plus y equals 39. And if we simplify this a bit, we get x plus 4y equals 39. Perimeter of B is 44, so we get x plus y equals 44. What type of question is this? This is just geometry and algebra. So, solving geometry problems. Okay, so simplify this, we get 2x plus 2y equals 44. Divide all by 2, we get x plus y equals 24. 2. So this is also going to be simultaneous equations, as some of you have already pointed out. So if I write these on top of each other, we get x plus 4y equals 39, and we get x plus y equals 22. And you're also right, we only actually care about x, really. GCSE is a bit more difficult because they have more topics. So subtract those, you get 3y equals 17. So y is equal to 17 over 3. Now all we need to do is substitute to find x. So you have x plus 17 over 3 equals 22. X equals 22 minus 17 over 3. So turn that into over 3, we get x equal to 66 over 3. So minus 10 would be 66, minus that would be 59 over 3. That's our final answer. Oh, yeah, 49, my bad. Had a brain fart. I thought it was 76 for a second. Yeah. Okay. So, we can get access to the paper, either Discord, or you can email me if you can't access Discord. When is the exam? It's worrying you're saying that, but it's this Friday. You should know when your exams are, come on. Okay. So yeah, that's all the time we have for now. In terms of Thursday, I'll do my best to try and go live, but I don't know if I'll be able to just because of the school commitments and everything like that. Doing last minute preparation. Yeah. Other than that, best of luck with your revision. Best of luck with literature paper 1 tomorrow. Hopefully it's not too bad.